Hey everybody, Brian Shea here, talking today about software selection and a process that's worked well for me in the past when I'm selecting a particular piece of software. So, oftentimes, what happens with companies when they're looking to purchase a new piece of software is they get demos from a number of software vendors, they see which one looks the best, and then they start using it, and then they get hands on with it. And after they've purchased it, sometimes they're disappointed with the selection that they've made. So, I've got a process that has worked for me in the past and wanted to share it with you. So, with my process, what I'm trying to achieve before I purchase a piece of software is what I like to call a mid-level understanding of the piece of software that I'm purchasing. So, when we have more of a process that is focused more around getting demos from the software vendors themselves, a lot of times our understanding of what we're buying is pretty superficial. Obviously, we're going to be asking questions to the software vendors, but they're the ones who are kind of in the driver's seat. They're the ones who are demoing it to us. So we want to get a better understanding. What I call a mid-level understanding. It's not realistic to think that we could become sort of deep experts on a piece of software before we purchase it. But we want to get deeper than that superficial sort of understanding that we've got when we're just getting demos. So here's the process that I use. Step one is what I like to do is write down a handful of the use cases that we're going to be needing this piece of software to accomplish. And when I think about the use cases that I want to focus on, I want the use cases to be both complex and important. Okay, so I don't want the easy use cases, but I also don't want use cases that are sort of edge cases and not important. That's not what we want to focus on. We want to kind of put our potential software kind of through the ringer with, like I said, complex and important use cases. Okay, so what we want to do is write those down, 3 of them, 4 of them, 5 of them. We want to write those down. Now, step 2, what I do is I do research of what's available on the market. And you're probably familiar with this. This is probably part of your process already where, you do web searches, you might ask your network of tools that people have used. Maybe you go on, the online Trailblazer community or online forum and ask people what they use. And so after we've done our research, now hopefully we have a list of maybe 3 potential software products that we might move forward with and purchase. So now what we want to do is we want to take that list of 3 and we want to dive a little bit deeper on them. So the next step in the process is we want to get documentation on our short list of potential products. We can go to their website to get the documentation. Oftentimes, you might have to ask the sales team or ask the vendor themselves if they have additional documentation. But we want to get some good documentation, good technical documentation. And we want to read through that with a particular eye on our handful of use cases that we defined in step 1. There's no need necessarily to read through dozens and dozens and dozens of pages of documentation, but we want to skim through it with a particular focus on the areas that are important to us based on our use cases. So now after we've read through the documentation of our short list of, let's say, 3 software companies, we probably have a sense of one that looks like the leading contender. So now we take that one, and what we want to do is, as much as we can, get hands-on with that one leading contender in kind of a proof of concept. So if it's possible to get a trial version of this software or a free version, or in some way, shape, or form, we want to get hands-on with it and build out, if possible, a proof of concept that addresses some or all of those use cases that we had at the beginning. And just try it out, see what works, see what doesn't, see where the software performs as you would expect and see where it doesn't. And at this point, you're going to have very specific questions, most likely, that you should be documenting throughout this. And now what we want to do is we want to take those questions that we've come up with through our sort of hands-on proof of concept that we've done. And now what we want to do is we want to take those questions, and this is the last step, we want to go to the actual software vendor themselves with those questions, and we want to get on a call with a pre-sales technical resource. And we want to go through those specific questions and have them help us answer those, because they are the experts in the software. And I will say, since this is the process that I use, it's not uncommon for you to come up with your questions based on your hands-on proof of concepting, and you're coming up with specific questions, and you bring those to the pre-sales technical resources, and they may be at a level that they don't even know sort of off the top of their head what the answers are to. So then they can take those questions and they can go and do their research, and they have sort of the technical specialists on their side to best answer those questions. And they can come back to you with answers. But that is a much more fruitful discussion to have with the software vendor, where it's very targeted, very specific on your needs and your use cases, rather than having it be more demo focused. And so now at this point, you've gotten your information back from the software vendor. They've answered your questions. And now you're in a position to make a much more informed decision about whether or not to move forward with purchasing that software. As I mentioned before, the term mid-level understanding, you've achieved kind of a mid-level understanding of that particular software product, focused particularly on the use cases that are most valuable to you. So I think that will put you in a much stronger, much more informed position to make a good decision on whether or not to purchase that software. So if you've struggled with this kind of thing in the past, purchasing software, give this process a try, and I hope it helps. Have a great day.